Show me someone with low minerals, and I will show you someone with poor vitamin absorption.
Welcome, everybody, to The God Factor. Here is your host, Dr. R. Springett.
Let me ask you this question, Dr. Gunn. Inside of the community that I live in,
Right.
I get a lot of people coming to me speaking about that they just visited the doctor and the report was that they have diabetes.
Okay.
And then I found out there are many levels of this thing. It's not one strain, it's different levels that it can work on.
Right.
Why is it so prevalent in the community of the Africans genders?
Okay, so when you look into any situation where it's more of a microcosm or macrocosm of a community, you have to look at what starts your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's literally that simple. So different communities and different cultures have different predilections towards certain foods. So if it is a high carbohydrate type of breakfast and lunch and dinner, you will increase the likelihood of a diabetic, diabetes onset 2, like adult onset, type 2, not type 1, just by...
What is type 2, type 1?
So type 1 is you're born with it.
Okay.
Type 2 is you develop it.
How are you born with it?
Well, it's a genetic factor.
It
So
be,
the two parents came together and you got that gene and you're born with it, and there was pancreatic insufficiency right from the womb. But the other one is you get it over time. And so the best answer is the honest one, that you can reverse adult onset diabetes virtually 100% of the time by simply just making dietary changes.
And that makes sense, because if it's what you're eating is causing it, and if you reverse the way you're eating.
It has to be very specific eating. You can't wing it. It's got to be really, really deliberate and
intentional. You can't pass McDonald's that time and say, I'll just cheat, nobody's watching.
No.
You can't do
it doesn't
that.
work. You have a skinny plank.
That's a good one. For those of you who were thinking about that question, we covered that for you. And we want to look at some other areas. And one of the things I want to talk about today is in what you do.
Right.
For me, for example, let me just throw this out to the world. I know I had a lot of problems with cramps in my legs.
Right.
And I never had that when I was younger, because I realized I played a lot of games, athletic all my life. And I called you once, and you just started giving me all this water to drink first.
Right, and electrolytes.
And some other stuff, which was what did you say?
Electrolytes.
Electrolytes. So why was I needing these electrolytes? Because in the next couple of days, I never even had cramps again for months and months and months.
Right. So again, using the integrative medicine perspective, we look at you as Rob standalone, not Rob like someone else. So what's your profile? You're always on the go. You burn the midnight oil. You travel a lot. Your passport must look like ridiculously just stamped with everything under the sun. When you get preoccupied with something, you're an all-in guy. You can easily blow by your water. When the blood sugar goes a little bit long, we make not the best choices. They tend to be simple carbohydrates. All simple carbohydrates that are processed are demineralizers, which means it takes minerals out of the body. Not 1 or 2 meals, but over a period of time, low water, high stress, lack of sleep, traveling all the time, aeration in an airplane, and processed foods. And now you start cramping, you start affecting the heart rhythm, you start affecting mental clarity. So looking at you, all we did was put all that back in, what over a time started to go out. That was it, and then you were good to go.
So it's going out on what? On what basis is it going out? On that I'm not replenishing, or it's only put for that time?
So think of it this way. Stress accelerates the use of minerals exponentially. And usually it's in the endocrine system. So it'll be the adrenal glands, which really take the brunt of it. And everyone says, what, adrenals? I thought it would be kidney and liver and thyroid and so forth. No, but the adrenal glands are what gets you that fight or flight response. And when you're on prolonged stress, you use up your minerals at an alarming rate. And then you deplete yourself for a period of time. Then you do something weird like walking up the steps, or 3 o'clock in the morning you have your calf cramp, which throws you out of bed. Now those are signs of low water, low minerals, and they're very quick to fix.
He's telling you exactly what happened to me. So don't get yourself in that now. And you should be happy that you heard how to fix it, because you have a solution. The next thing is you described me like I was data. on somebody's phone.
Right.
Anytime they go to YouTube and they're watching the show and they're pressing, they're using more data than if they answer the phone.
Right. Yeah.
Your data disappears right away
Right.
once you hit those kind of things. So
Right.
that's how our body functions.
Yeah. So you always have to go to what's the root? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Not how can I mask the symptoms
Got it.
and drug Rob, but how it can get you to the root of why you're producing that situation. And that is with deeper pathologies like arthritis, heart disease. We had a guy come to the clinic. He was 95% occlusion of the carotid artery, 95% blockage. He was headed for open heart surgery, came from Africa, flew all the way from Kenya, came by, and within 3 months, he was 62 years old. He was running and jogging alternately 6 miles a day.
Yeah.
No more blockage. But we did specific protocol to reverse the arterial occlusion or blockage,
Yeah.
and all of it was natural.
That's what I'm talking about. So there's some stuff that can be done without the cutting and the knife and all of that stuff happening.
Okay, so this is what I want to get across. If there's one overarching point that if you got nothing from this, it would be this. You have way more options than you realize available at your fingertips to reverse whatever, notice I'm making this a blanket statement, whatever your health disposition is, than you actually realize. And it's no one's fault. It's based on what happened over the last 100 years. There was an Augustinian monk who grew pea plants in the monastery garden, and he noticed, oh, this one is a dominant gene, this is a recessive gene. And then we started to think in genes. But later on, fast forward 100 years later, we found out genes are, and this is a surprise to most people, 25% of the picture. Rob, the other 75% is what's called plasticity, which means it's your lifestyle, it's your environment. So if you manage that 25% will not even express.
That's important. So you do believe everything is in moderation?
No, I'm absolutely against that because I'll tell you why. The reason why I say that is because, check it out. So in addition to my clinic, I also have a nearby workout facility because I work with high-level athletes and people who make their living on looking or doing or performing at their best. And one time a person just picked up a bench press bar and their throat started closing. So they started to get anaphylactic shock and they started, what's going on here? Did someone use this bar? Did someone use, and I know I was there and no one was in that particular bar location for 7 hours.
Okay.
And I said, no one's used this bar. Well, someone had fish. Someone had fish because my windpipe is closing. So they were ready to get their EpiPen. Then I tracked it back. I had a salmon sandwich around 12 noon. And I used that piece of equipment. So if it was moderation was fine with fish, this nearly killed the person. I'll give you another one. There are people who, if they have a really common food that everyone thinks is healthy, let's take potatoes. Potatoes for a certain segment of the population is what's called a nightshade plant. And a nightshade plant emphasizes inflammatory aspects within the body. So if arthritis runs in you, in that 25% modality, you'll now fill it up with the other 75% by just choosing a potato. When someone else has a potato, they're fine. So when you say everything in moderation, it overlooks the idea that there are some foods which are huge flare-up agents for certain people who have a predisposition to them.
Got it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But potato is good though, because I love potato.
Generally speaking, for the majority of the population, potato is your friend. I will make one condition though: whenever you eat a potato, it has a very high glycemic index of 95. Smother it with either one of the following: put either butter on it, or cream cheese, or lemon, and it lowers the glycemic index, which means it won't spike your blood sugar level, and you immediately have a better reaction to that food.
I just love, and we're talking about sweet potato here.
Sweet potato, a purple potato from Japan, any form of a potato.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But I always think it's one of the better things I enjoy eating.
Oh, yeah, no.
And I just eat it just like that.
Yeah.
All right. So when you say people have to exercise a part of their routine on a daily basis, regardless to how old they are.
Right.
And some of the things that they're saying is running is better than swimming, or swimming is better than running.
Right.
What are some of the things?
Okay, so I always try to, again, it's orthomolecularly speaking. So I should break this down for 10 seconds.
Please, yes.
Orthopedic goes in your shoe. Orthodontic goes in your mouth. Orthomolecular goes toward the pathology you have. Ortho just means right, which correct. And the placement, molecular, is just a fancy way of saying nutrient for that person. So on that note, there are people who are natural swimmers There are people who can't stand water. There are people who like absolutely take to running. There are heavier set people who it's hard on the joints of runners. And then there's people who are weight trainers and they love it. Whatever suits your disposition. I don't believe forcing a square peg in a round hole, you got to exercise this way and anything outside of that isn't going to be good for you. It's inconsiderate. So I always try to fit the person to the activity.
Well, with that said, I think we take a break. And we'll get back to some people who are bending their heads down, but just don't pull the trigger. Because I know that you're thinking you got to drink your water.
It's time for The God Factor with Dr. R. Springett. Join Dr. Springett for the live taping of The God Factor. God say he exists so we can resist poverty, lack, failure, and sickness.
Dr. Gunn.
Yes.
I'm really happy to have you here today.
Pleasure
because not only just the wisdom you're sharing with us, the knowledge, it's giving us solutions and simple solutions, like having enough water to maintain the activity that we're doing on a daily basis. Now, you said something earlier, and I want to tap back into that source. It's dealing with the genetics. And one of the audience was sharing that with us just now. How do you know when your genetics are at an alarming rate, at a high area where you have to do something? How do you even know? As we said earlier, how do you know to balance that?
Right. So in order to see your genetic predisposition, even though it's 25% I mentioned, look at your mother, look at your father, and look at their grandparents. So if you see arthritis moving through the family tree, or cancer, or heart disease, oh, this guy died at 40, this guy died at 50, heart disease, you start seeing pattern recognition, either mother or father. When you put them together, it's very likely that 25% will be made up of the combination of the genetic lineage of the mother and father's past.
So now you can start to take action at an early.
Correct. So for example, if it was heart disease, let's say it was, then you would want to make sure you had a diet that would be very artery healthy, also high activity, high antioxidants.
What is that? Let me just stop you right there.
Absolutely.
I need to know, what is the type of diet that you would need to use?
So here's I call this actually hilarious, bordering on ridiculous. God made fruits and vegetables, not just because they're pretty, not because they just taste good, but they also nutrify every cell of our body. And when we pervert them, when we process them, when we superheat them or put them in huge boiling oil or anything we do that distorts its natural original status, we start to create frankenfoods or oddball foods that don't work well with our cellular makeup. So anyone that has, for example, if someone has fresh fruits and vegetables on a weekly, daily basis, that in and of itself will assuage a lot of potential for any heart disease, just that alone. And that will be that will be artery healthy. That will contain coenzyme Q10, vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin C. These are all magnesium and potassium at the right ratio, which are absolutely imperative for heart health.
Since you're on the vitamin area, there's a lot of shows that comes on TV, on YouTube, on flash radios, and they just tell you, oh, you need to get this vitamin. Vitamin D is very, very important into the body every day. And somebody told me that if you have vitamin D, you have to combine it with something else.
Right. Okay. So that's true. Vitamin D3 should be combined with vitamin K for best absorption. Why I'm not a fan of someone saying you should have this type of vitamin on a YouTube channel? Have they met you? Do they know your lifestyle? Do they know your genetic predisposition? Do they know your lifestyle predisposition? The answer would be no, no, and no. Right. So they're doing kind of like what I call a broad stroke paintbrush to just say, hey, this is the general deal. Most people are vitamin D3 deficient. Yes. And then they espouse the benefits of it. But there are some people who have excellent levels and some people have very, very chronically low levels. And that's when someone comes to my practice, we test to see where they are.
And this is why I needed you to be here, because you're dealing with a lot of these things that comes from how God shows in the Bible. He made the herbs and he made all this good stuff from the beginning, and the fruit to bear and to have his seed. And we know that these things are there by God.
Right.
And so we're moving away from a lot of that and just into a can or a bottle.
Right.
So in life, in order for us to sustain and to be longer and live a healthier life, a healthier life.
Right.
I think we need to get back to the God factor.
Right. Well, the God factor isn't some of it, it's everything.
All right.
So as soon as you're going to be active, as soon as you will eat clean and close to its natural source as possible without a lot of processing, as soon as you are, and you do this on a regular basis, you have to be consistent, and you're doing it within your predisposition. For example, there are some people who are slow, I'll just digress for a moment here, they're slow oxidizers. So they have a steak and they want to sleep. There's other people who have a steak and they want to go out and chop wood. So you have to find out what works for you. No one can tell you, this one point I'm about to say, no one can tell you otherwise. If the food that you're eating gives you energy for a sustained period of time, be it cognitive energy or be it physical, that food is good for you.
Got it. Because I like mangoes.
Right. So
Yeah.
then mangoes are your buddy.
That's it. I mean, I just feel like I'm ready to run 100 meters when I eat 2 or 3 mangoes.
Right.
And then if I get a sugar cane, I want to be up all night watching TV.
But if you break down a mango, it's very high in vitamin A, it's very high in vitamin C, it's got something called carotenoids, which are extremely good for the lungs, the respiratory tract, the nose. So that's saying that it suits you because your particular disposition has a higher affinity for that. Other people here in the audience, they will have a predisposition of something else where they need a lot more than a normal person.
So since I'm on that note, let me just, watch me, okay? Keep your eyes on me, audience, keep your eyes on me. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something great right now. God make miracles all the time. There's one coming at you right now. You ready? There it is. You know what this is? This is what we call salt. Table salt, which means it needs to be on your table. That's what they call it, table salt. Now, do you know, I have friends who don't eat mango unless they add salt.
Okay.
Now, you tell me, how healthy would this be to them when the doctors are telling us to minimize salt, minimize salt?
Right. Okay, so there's a couple things to say. First of all, table salt, and I'm saying this very clearly for your knowledge and your learning here, is not real salt. Real salt is mined in different areas, whether it's in the Himalayas, which it tends to be pink, or Utah, again, it tends to be pink, or in France, the old ocean beds, which tends to be gray. That's real salt. Real salt has over 80 minerals in it. When they make table salt, they heat it to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. It strips it of its general, like it has a color, so it goes white, and it's basically sodium chloride. Then they add anti-caking agents so that when you pour it out, it doesn't clump in the box. And sometimes they'll add also other things like aluminum silicate for preservative. Notice I said aluminum.
Aluminum.
Yes, aluminum, which is definitely a no-no for any kind of cognitive disorder. So table salt is a world apart from real salt. Now they're called both salt, but this is a highly, highly processed version. So this is what table salt will do to you if you have it over a period of time. Table salt. It will raise your blood pressure. It will cause magnesium, calcium, and potassium excretion increase. It will be a higher stress on your kidneys. It will cause a general edema, more for women than men, which is just kind of a more of a watery look and a bloat, especially if it was a time of the women's month. They'll have more bloat. And for a guy, they'll have odd water weight. They'll weigh themselves and go, I should be lighter. Why am I heavy? So this is a unnaturally created product that is obviously commercially ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Now, Himalayan salt, for example, or French salt, which is from the river, which is the ocean beds, which is gray, has all the minerals in it. Now, this is very, very important. I have to say this next line because this is overarching of critical nature. Virtually every disease that anyone ever had in this room or will get in this room, and I hope to God they get nothing.
No, stop it.
They get nothing. Is due to, among many things, a mineral deficiency. So minerals are your cofactors for vitamins. So they cause the actual catalyst or the speeding and the enhancement and the improvement of the absorption of vitamins. So if you have low minerals, show me someone with low minerals and I will show you someone with poor vitamin absorption. It's as simple as that. So if you have this, I would use it in case it snows again on your steps. But then after that, I would totally just buy Himalayan salt or the river salt from the ocean, which the French sell.
So this is really not the good guy to be on our table.
It's junky salt.
And they name it table salt.
Right. So the minimum daily requirement, they say, their normal daily requirement is 2,300 milligrams, but 1,500 milligrams is better. But the whole point is, you don't even really need that much salt. When you use the proper salt, you don't have to, because after a while, you'll actually get hooked on this.
Yes.
And this will create an unnatural fluid level within your body that you don't want to have, because this is the body's trying to compensate for it. I mean, it's a complicated topic, but simply stated, I would put this in the garbage.
Well, now you heard what you do with your salt when you go home. Put it in the garbage unless you get Himalaya salt or the sea salt.
Right.
And notice everything today is coming with this sea salt attached to it. And so I'm looking at that a lot of time. Let me just ask you this question before we pull out of this whole agenda, which you have given us so much vital information on today's day. And we just thank you for the time. But I want to ask you this question. In an exercise routine, when a person reaches 60 or 70, should they even bother with exercise?
Okay, so it's the actual opposite. It's not should they bother, it's they should never go a week without it. The exercise is going to give you a lot of enhancement in many areas. I actually call it the legal cheat. You're going to get improved bone density. So for women who tend to be toward osteoporotic, after postmenopausal, they get osteoporotic. It helps bone density. It helps metabolism. It actually helps you cough less. No, it helps lung function for sure. It helps holding on to your muscle mass. And here's a weird one that almost no one talks about. Weight training, and specifically the movement squat, and it's an oddity, but it's true, creates the release of growth hormone after the exercise. So someone could say, well, who cares about growth hormone? Think anti-aging, more little in the middle, right? Because it's actually GH is actually very, very good for that. It's fantastic. And just basically all the, not cosmetic benefits, but the internal benefits as well. Because over a period of years, it declines. So yes, if you're 50, 60 and up, I would never be looking at, it should be a part of your regular routine.
Every day, even just to walk.
Yeah, not. I don't believe in the overdoing it. 7 days a week. Neurotic OCD style. I just think you should do it in accordance to how you recover.
I think any more things than what we have heard today should keep us in line for a while to come with some understanding. There's one last question that seems to be a little bit. Some ladies are in the audience and wanted to know, how can we look at the women factor?
Right.
Working with the God factor for menopausal women.
Right, okay, so that's a very common question, surprisingly. So one of the things that when I see disordered hormonal balance within a woman, either a premature menopausal status or a very, very high symptomology of the menopause, you're looking at low essential fatty acids. So the one fatty acid that tends to do a phenomenal correction of all this, it's got an unusual name. It's called evening primrose oil. And you take that as a supplement, and I've seen a high percentage of the reduction of the symptoms and or like altogether gone just by taking evening primrose oil.
So that's just you're saying it's not, they don't have to take a pill. They don't have to go and take some.
Well, the oil is put in an encapsulated form into a pill.
Okay.
So it's an actual gel cap type thing.
All right.
And but it gives you the benefits.
But it's natural. It's natural.
Oh, it's totally. It's evening primrose. God created the plant.
That's what I'm trying to get to, because I'm trying to find out that the woman is the same woman that God created.
Right.
Which was a part of the factor to make everything normal, to give a man some kind of thing to look at. Sometimes a man just get depressed. He don't see anything look good. He needs a woman.
Right.
So take a look here, there. But now, if they have a problem, we need to know what God created also to solve that. So evening primrose oil.
Right.
For all those women out there who don't feel too good in the evening, it's evening primrose oil.
Right.
And because that's a part to do with God factor. I want to thank my guest today, Dr. Gunseek, well-known molecular doctor, and we know for a fact that the stuff and the information that he has given us today come from the integrative medicine side of it, and where he brings what is happening to us on a daily basis and to that which we are not aware of. And we want to give him a great thank you for just being here today with us on the God Factor. I am your host, Dr. R. Springett, saying have a good and godly day. God bless you.